It's April 11th, 2019. The fateful day has finally arrived, and I will be having my inverted nipples surgically corrected. You owe it to yourself to do this, the doctor had said. Put your past behind you. The surgical suite is gleaming. I see the trays and instruments as I climb up onto the operating table. And now, several enormous lights are being concentrated onto my torso. The OR's temperature is cool. The surgeon looks at me through her enormous designer glasses. Her confidence is arresting, is all-encompassing, and I am hanging on her every move, staring at her inner authority. I wonder if she's wearing her high heels. I sense that she is. She is a tiny Russian with offices on Long Island and Midtown Manhattan. I feel I have placed myself in capable hands. Just a few weeks earlier, I had sat in her office, telling her my story, telling her about my deepening frustration about being disconnected from my own breasts, even after making a film about women's breast stories, and incredibly not having shared the specifics of my own lifelong lament. I correct inverted nipples all the time, she had said, and as I signed on the dotted line, a great weight had begun to lift. The sense of excitement I feel now is profound, is surreal. I can hear the surgeon directing the operation beneath the ambient hum of the operating room. She makes fine incisions across my nipples, opening up their fibrous thicket with its multiplicity of tendrils. She begins with the left breast. Snip, snip. No problems here whatsoever, she says in her exotic accent. There is a barrier they have erected between my face and my chest. Can I see? I ask. No, she says. It would be too distressing for you. She moves on to the next nipple. I can sense that she is working harder at this one. Mr. Nipple is being difficult, she says, and I ponder the persistent inversion of that right breast. So many years. I won't miss that struggle. She references the temerity of Mr. Nipple once again as she finishes up. My God, I think. But now it's finished and I'm in recovery. A simple snip, 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 and a new chapter begins. My intention in doing this surgery is to pull my nipples out of their little sea creature caves and allow them their freedom. I've been reflecting on all the many ways this harbored breast shame has touched my life and my relationships. I was only 12 when I first began hiding my boobs' determined scar-like dimples. Why was my hang-up so isolating? I mean, the body is meant to be carefree and untroubled, not banished into the shadows. And to make matters worse, my sexual arousal was deeply tied to my breasts and nipples. They are extremely erogenous, but as a young woman finding herself, their role in lovemaking could never be sustained or prolonged. I hungered for extended breast foreplay with my lovers without being distracted in that old habituated way. If I lay back for pillow talk, will my nipples once again disappear into their weird little oblivion space? Oh, it was never ending. How do my breasts look? Do my breasts look ugly? Do they look okay? It was unending. I want to put that awkward, tiresome dance behind me. It was a shadow over my heart, over my womanhood, over my generationally earned independence. And I want to experience my body's idiosyncratic sensations, the kinds of sensations I feel at my lips, my hands, under my nose. And that's been the best result of all, actually, that new source of somatic consciousness. Now, I'm back in Massachusetts and I can see my healing nipples through the bandages. They are so pink and puffed up. I clean the wounds with tenderness, marveling at the nipples' emerging new character. In less than 2 weeks, I am fully healed. Surgery update 4 years later. Well, my inverted nipple experience is still pretty new for me. And in fact, not a day goes by that I'm not grateful for having had that surgery. It's been a remarkable game changer, life-changing, and really it's a relief not to just be distracted and reminded of a deformity that I've always only ever known since I was really preteen. I suppose it wasn't preteen, it was teenage years, but the earliest moments of my teen years was this kind of shock that somehow I was different from everyone else. And as it turns out, a lot of girls and women have inverted nipples, and men too, but I thought I was the only one. So typical kid, you're isolated, and I guess I got teased one or two times, not too many times, but when it did happen, it stung, and it penetrated my soul. And I thought that I had been dealt just an unfortunate hand of cards, and I was just gonna have to forge ahead and do my best. But I was sad because of it, and that really influenced my life. There's a lot to say about that. So I finally did have the surgery, and 4 years later, I really do love my breasts. I love them wholly and completely. And it's not just the look. I thought that the look was going to be the most important thing, but it isn't. What's important is the sensation of the body part. And that's why I love somatic wisdom so much. I already loved somatic wisdom and all things related to the ability of the body to pick up on the wisdom of the world, to sense things through the hands especially, and other body parts. But the breasts, I'd never known what would be possible from an activated sensation around the edges of my breast. That's been a pure joy for me. That makes me feel alive. That makes me feel like a woman. It makes me feel really whimsical and idiosyncratic in a fun way. So 4 years later, very, very pleased indeed. So what was the influence of bras on my experience of being a woman with inverted nipples? Well, actually, the bras played a major role because it enabled me to hide. I was always hiding out behind my bra, and I could get away with it because no one ever expects a girl to take off her bra, even in the locker room, even at the girls' slumber party. I wasn't really ever seeing girls' breasts. I know to some generations that's unusual, but I heard from a friend who's raising a 16-year-old daughter that girls don't show each other their breasts. And when I was growing up, we didn't show each other our breasts. We didn't question it. It just was what it was. Interestingly, my mother walked around with her breasts exposed all the time. And so I was comfortable with that. But no, the bras kept us all separated. And so it had a major role in reinforcing the separation that I felt from others and homogenizing the breasts. I mean, we all have different breasts. As it turns out, every single woman's breast is different. They're like fingerprints. They're completely unique and all beautiful. And I always thought my breasts actually were beautiful. I just was lamenting that I had inverted nipples most of the time. I could see when my nipples would come out, which was rare, that I had beautiful breasts, and I wanted to love my breasts, but then my little idiosyncratic nipples would disappear again, and I would be sad again. So the bras kept that whole experience of myself under wraps, behind closed doors, behind the bra. I used to be very hyper aware of what my breasts look like because my breasts are large. So people, men and women, wanted to see my breasts. And when I would show my breasts to people, they would think, "Oh, your breasts are so beautiful." And I would just be like, "No, well," I was habituated to just dismissing them. So being seen was a bit of an obstacle course when I was young. But I had ways of preparing my breasts to be seen. Because if I would pinch my nipples, they would pop right out immediately, and they would stay out for, maybe about 20 seconds or so. So I could sort of saunter up to the skinny dipper section of the pool or whatever, and people would be like, "Wow, beautiful breasts," and I'd be like, "Thanks." But then I would dive in the water and my nipples would be in again. So it was a whole dance my whole life. I was so tired of that. I was recently at a naturist film festival, and I just sort of was parading around with my breasts, and I was so comfortable. And at a naturist gathering, no one's really looking at one another's body parts, which is so wonderful. So that was a great place to explore that new kind of freedom. It's a whole different game for me now, because I used to be much more cognizant of whether I could trust them, whether or not they might. I had a irrational fear that I would be rejected because my breasts looked different, a childhood belief that my breasts were a make or break thing for a relationship, which of course was completely not true, especially with men. Men love women's breasts. Men were never the problem. It was really me. That was the problem. It's good to just be honest about how hard it was to hide a key piece of my womanhood, a key piece of my heart space, my vulnerability. I just feel like there's so much courage that comes from this place, and I always felt compromised, like one foot out the door, the other one just cemented to the ground in my past. So I'm grateful to be coming forward with my collection of anecdotes about life as me, with a childhood and adulthood with inverted nipples that I was privately ashamed about. And then I even made a movie all about breast stories. And I was so exhausted from the task of movie making, I just was like, I don't have time to talk about my problems. And it was pretty ironic, now wasn't it? But anyway, now I can talk about it because I did finally have the surgery. After the film was done, I sort of exhaled and said, I'm gonna have that surgery. So changing my nipples was my answer. For others, they're good with leaving them well enough alone. Inverted nipples are beautiful, beautiful nipples. Every breast is beautiful, and I know that better than anyone. But I decided to make a move and have a surgery to pull them out, and that's something I always wanted, and I did it. And I'm so happy about that. It's been huge for me. It's barely describable what it's making possible and continuing to make possible for me in the sort of materialistic ways, but also in the esoteric realms, which are my favorite realms. But I've gone from maiden to queen, and the nipples have shown me how to make that transition. So I appreciate you being with me on this journey and for listening to my stories. And I'll hope to see you again sometime soon.